He was sweeping floors in a grocery store when he had an idea that would change how 2 billion people communicate. But first, he had to survive on food stamps. This is the story of Jan Koum, the immigrant who went from government assistance to selling his company for $19 billion. And he did it by refusing to become what he escaped. 1976. Soviet Ukraine, a small village outside Kiev. Jan Koum was born into a world of silence and fear. His mother was a housewife. His father was a construction worker. They lived in a tiny apartment with no hot water, no telephone, and definitely no future. But the worst part wasn't the poverty, it was the surveillance. In Soviet Ukraine, the government listened to everything. Phone calls were monitored, neighbors reported on neighbors. Privacy didn't exist. Even as a child, Jan learned to whisper, to hide, to trust no one. His mother would tell him, "Be careful what you say. The walls have ears, they're always listening." Jan grew up in a world where communication was dangerous, where sharing your thoughts could destroy your family, where every conversation carried risk. This fear would later become his fortune. But he didn't know that yet. In 1992, when Jan was 16, everything changed. His mother made an impossible decision. They would leave Ukraine, leave the Soviet system, leave everything they knew. They would go to America. Jan's father stayed behind. Someone had to keep working. The plan was he'd join them later. He never did. Jan would never see his father again. Jan and his mother arrived in Mountain View, California with nothing. No money, no English, no connections. They moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment, government-subsidized housing. His mother cleaned houses. Jan swept floors at a grocery store. They qualified for food stamps. Every month, Jan would use government assistance to buy basic food. Bread, milk, eggs, the minimum to survive. He was 16 years old in a new country, living on welfare, barely speaking English. Most people would see this as rock bottom. Jan saw it as freedom. For the first time in his life, he could speak without fear. He could think without surveillance. He could dream without permission. Jan enrolled at San Jose State University. But he struggled. His English wasn't good enough. The classes were too expensive. He couldn't afford books. After 2 years, he dropped out. Another failure. Another dead end. But Jan was obsessed with one thing: computers. He'd spend hours at the public library teaching himself programming. He'd buy broken computers from yard sales and fix them. He'd read every manual, every book, every guide he could find. In 1997, at age 21, Jan applied for a job at Yahoo. He had no degree, no formal training, no resume that made sense. But he took their technical test, and he crushed it. Yahoo hired him as an infrastructure engineer. For the first time in his life, Jan had a real salary. He rented his own apartment. He bought his mother a house. He thought he'd made it. He'd escaped poverty. He was a success. Then in 2000, his mother got sick. Cancer. Aggressive. Terminal. Jan took time off work to care for her. He watched her suffer. He watched her fight. He watched her lose. She died in 2001. Jan was 25 years old. His father was gone. His mother was gone. He was alone in America. Jan went back to Yahoo. He worked for another 8 years. He was good at his job, made decent money, had stability. But something was missing. He felt empty, like he was living someone else's life. In 2007, Jan bought his first iPhone. He was amazed by the App Store. The potential, the possibilities. He started thinking, what if there was an app that let you communicate without being tracked, without ads, without surveillance? He remembered his childhood in Ukraine, the fear of being listened to, the lack of privacy. He thought about his mother's warnings, the walls have ears. Jan had an idea, a simple messaging app, no ads, no data collection, no corporate surveillance, just pure communication, encrypted, private, safe, the opposite of everything he grew up with. In 2009, Jan quit Yahoo. His friends thought he was crazy. He was 33 years old. He had a stable 6-figure job, and he was walking away to build an app that didn't exist yet. Jan had saved $400,000 from his years at Yahoo. That was his runway. That was everything. If this failed, he'd be back to food stamps, Jan started coding in his small apartment, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. He called the app WhatsApp. A play on what's up, simple, universal, human. But Jan had a problem. He wasn't just building an app, he was building a philosophy. No ads meant no revenue. No data collection meant no way to monetize users. Investors thought he was insane. Jan pitched WhatsApp to 15 venture capital firms. 15 rejections. They all said the same thing. How will you make money? What's the business model? Why would anyone pay for a messaging app when texting is free? Jan's response was simple. Because privacy isn't free. Because people deserve to communicate without being the product. Nobody believed him. Except one person. Brian Acton, Jan's former colleague from Yahoo. Brian had also left to start something new. Brian believed in Jan's vision. In February 2009, they became co-founders. They launched WhatsApp in November 2009. The first version was buggy, bare bones. Basic, almost nobody downloaded it. After 1 month, they had 200 users. After 3 months, still only a few thousand. Jan was burning through his savings. He had maybe 6 months left before he'd be broke. He considered giving up, getting a normal job, admitting defeat. Then in June 2010, Apple released iOS 4 with push notifications. Jan saw the opportunity instantly. He rebuilt WhatsApp to use push notifications for messages. Suddenly, the app was instant, real-time, addictive. Downloads exploded. 1,000 users. Then 10,000. Then 100,000. Then millions. People weren't just using WhatsApp. They were abandoning text messages for it. The app was spreading country by country. Europe, Asia, South America, Africa. By 2011, WhatsApp was in the top 20 apps in 10 countries. By 2012, they had 200 million users. By 2013, 400 million users. All without spending a dollar on advertising, pure word of mouth, pure value, but Jan stuck to his principles, no ads. Ever. Instead, WhatsApp charged 99 cents per year after the first year free. Most users paid. They trusted WhatsApp because WhatsApp didn't exploit them. Jan would say, "We're not here to build an advertising platform. We're here to build a communication tool." There's a difference. In 2014, Jan got a call. Mark Zuckerberg wanted to meet. Facebook wanted to buy WhatsApp. Jan flew to Zuckerberg's house. They talked for hours. Zuckerberg made an offer. $16 billion. Jan countered, $19 billion. Plus autonomy. Plus the promise, no ads. Ever. Zuckerberg agreed. On February 19, 2014, Facebook acquired WhatsApp for $19 billion. The largest acquisition in tech history at that time. Jan KOUM, the kid on food stamps, walked away with $9 billion personally. But here's the part that defines Jan's character. He insisted on signing the papers in a specific location. Not at Facebook headquarters, not at a fancy law office, at the building where he used to stand in line for food stamps in Mountain View. Jan wanted to sign where his journey began, where he was at his lowest, where he survived on government assistance. He brought his lawyer to that same welfare office, signed the papers on the same spot where he used to wait for help. He posted a photo on Facebook with the caption, "Just signed papers to sell WhatsApp to Facebook at this building. This is where I used to stand in line to collect food stamps." What a long, strange trip. But the story doesn't end there. In 2018, Jan resigned from Facebook. Why? Because Facebook wanted to monetize WhatsApp with ads and data collection. The exact things Jan built WhatsApp to avoid. Jan walked away from billions in unvested stock options. He gave up money to keep his principles. He wrote on Facebook, "It is time for me to move on. I'm leaving at a time when WhatsApp is stronger than ever. That's the right time to make a change." Translation, "I'm not going to let you destroy what I built. I'd rather lose money than lose integrity." Today, WhatsApp has over 2 billion users. It's the most popular messaging app in 180 countries. It changed how the world communicates. It proved that you don't need to exploit users to build something massive. And it all started with a kid who survived on food stamps, who remembered what it felt like to be watched, who refused to build the surveillance tools he escaped from. Jan KOUM'S net worth today is estimated at $15 billion. But his real wealth is his legacy. He proved that privacy can be profitable, that principles can pay, that the kid sweeping floors can change the world. When asked about his success, Jan says, "I grew up in a country where the government read your mail and listen to your calls. I don't want to build tools that enable that. I want to build tools that fight it." From Soviet surveillance to Silicon Valley, from food stamps to $19 billion, from silence to giving 2 billion people a voice. Jan KOUM didn't just build a company, he built the opposite of his childhood. He built freedom. And sometimes the greatest revenge against oppression is to give the world what oppression took from you. In Jan's case, that was privacy. That was trust. That was the simple human right to speak without fear. What would you build if you refused to repeat your past? What empire would you create if you turned your pain into purpose? Drop your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories of people who turned nothing into everything. See you in the next one.